What's going on, everybody? I'm Caleb Ochoa, also known as NFL Game 22. This is Betting the NFL, week number 6. I'm here with my co-host, Derek Leslie, also known as DWeezy. What's going on, man?
Not much coming off a week where I was 3-1 on my spread plays. So looking to, stay with that mindset, that winning mindset, keep things rolling and keep that bankroll growing.
Absolutely, man. I'm coming off a winning week as well, back-to-back winning weeks. So I'm feeling good about this week. I'm going to keep it all rolling. But before we get to the our picks of the week, we will recap what happened, what events happened last week, and we will start with, as we do, what happened with the favorites. And straight up, they went 11-5 overall, 47, 32-1 against the spread. They were 6-10 and 33, 46-1. So obviously the underdogs keep on winning throughout this first 5 weeks of the season. Um, Underdogs seem to have the advantage against the spread, at least.
Yeah, I definitely think that's the case in some of
The
these
home
matchups
teams,
we've seen.
obviously they've been 8-8 last week. Yeah, what's up? Can you hear me?
I think I might be lagging a little bit.
I don't know, I don't know if I'm lagging or you're lagging. Um, One of us is.
You go ahead, not. I think it's my end.
Yeah, I mean, good now.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, great. Sorry about that. But yeah, like I was saying, the underdogs seem to have the edge so far this season. But also we last week we had an 8-8 week for the home teams, 41, 38-1 overall, straight up. But against the spread, 5-11, the home teams went, and 38-41 won. And that's different than what we've seen earlier in the season, because we saw the home teams have the advantage, but now we're seeing the away teams start to pull away. What do you think that's attributed to, or do you have any thoughts on that?
I think in some of these matchups it could be due to scheduling. Some teams starting the week. You see a couple teams here and there maybe start the season back to back games on the road, so they may not have back to back home games, but out of the next three, 2 out of 3 of those are a home game. But I do also think that to some degree it plays. They've heard us say it before. The preseason ain't over when the regular season begins, and so now you start seeing some of these teams separate, and things like being able to go on the road is something that you see. It's an indicator typically sometimes of a better team, and those teams that have the ability to go on the road and rack up wins, especially as the season moves on, is something people like to look at. And I think that could sort of play into that, the teams gaining continuity and making it through the first couple of weeks, maybe avoiding injury or avoiding that big injury that might derail a team offensively or defensively. So you're starting to see things shake out and who your real contenders are.
Yeah, I definitely like seeing that. Like I said, when it was was even up last week, I was a little bit concerned because like I said, I am a guy that does like to see trends. I don't care which way it goes. Obviously, as long as I see a trend, I like to sit there and roll with it. And a lot of the time, it does work out for me. But finally, we'll wrap with the over unders, 7 and 9 in week 5. The advantage to the unders. Obviously, the unders have been hitting all season long, 32, 47-1. Yeah, so like I said, keep betting the unders. It's winning, it's hitting a lot. Um, you know, uh, Tom Brady was asked all these 2-2 teams like the previous week and saying, why do you think that is? And Tom Brady's like, there's a lot of bad football. And you can see that in this number. I think this number of all the underdogs hitting, that proves that there's not very good football being played, and that's why a lot of these offense aren't really scoring. And it's crazy to see because I mean all the rules, like the quarterback getting penalized when you just barely touch him, and all the rules are geared towards offense, and yet these offenses still can't produce points, and they're still and still the under has the advantage. Um, so that's just crazy to see. Like these, you have everything set up for these teams to be scoring points, and they're not.
Yes, most definitely. You know, it's been obvious over the past few years that the NFL has an eye more so on the offensive side of the ball. We see that in the penalties called and how things are assessed and the behavior from the refs. And that definitely, I think Brady said it best in this. They asked him about parity, and it's no, that's bad football. We've seen a lot of that out of the Thursday night games. We just saw a 12-9 overtime game with 0 touchdowns, which, by the way, if you happen to play that no touchdown prop in that game, well done, well done, because plus what 10,000, well done if you was on that one, because that is the ugliest game I can recall in recent memory. We see, the London games, while the game itself might be entertaining, you don't necessarily see the best football in terms of product on the field. You don't see the highest scoring games. Again, not to say that it wasn't a good game or an entertaining game, but the scenarios around the circumstances aren't leading to these teams playing better, offenses playing better, more points occurring on the field. And, clearly if the under's coming in, that's because people in the book believe there should be more scoring and more offense.
Yeah, definitely. Some like I said, some of this is tough to watch, just like that Thursday night game. Obviously want to see more points, but betting wise, it doesn't matter as long as we keep hitting that number. Just keep rolling with it, and you'll be making money.
He's like,
Um,
an ugly game is only ugly when you don't have money on it.
exactly. Yeah, so we'll get to the biggest upset of the week, and that was that London game. The New York Giants beat the Green Bay Packers 27-22. They were plus 9.5 and plus 335 on the money line. It was looking good for the Packers. They jumped out for the 10-0 lead early in the game. Uh, Aaron Rodgers has been doing that the previous 2 weeks, jumping out to early lead, but then kind of letting the Bucks and the Patriots kind of slowly come back in those games. But they still were able to fend off. But this time they weren't. They couldn't fend off Daniel Jones and Saquon Barkley especially Barkley doing his thing. But Giants had two big touchdown drives in the fourth quarter, and they took the lead. And Aaron Rodgers had a chance to tie it up late in that game on their final drive, and he ended the game with those two straight knockdown passes. And yeah, Giants, continue surprisingly impressed. Obviously, I don't think a lot of people saw him at 4-1, but Brian Daboll is making a big difference with this team. Uh, Definitely had a great coaching job in this game, and that's what won it for him.
Definitely, I agree with you. Brian Dayball has shown that he's most likely the right hire for the job. Um, not even not to dismiss the record, but as you said, nobody expected this team to be 4-1. But the fact that they're winning games, they're competitive, they're in games, um, you know, even possibly being able to accept their own shortcomings, where you see they don't ask Daniel Jones to go out and throw the ball 35, 40 times and try and win them the game. But as long as Jones doesn't go out there and make mistakes, it's clear that the Giants have a chance to be in the game, whether it be through a defensive battle where we don't see much scoring, or we see they have the ability to put a few touchdowns up, move the ball down the field, and I don't think this is a team that's set up to where maybe they can go out and get, 30, 32 points in a game to try and win it that way. But when you can legitimately look at your defense and go keep them under 24 points and we got a strong chance to win this game, that's definitely something players can lean on. We don't have to be perfect. We just have to be good. We don't have to beat ourselves. We don't have to make mistakes. Do those things. And the way the Giants are set up, it's showing that they can win and come out with the victory.
Yeah, moving on to the largest cover against the spread, which came in the Detroit Lions at the New England Patriots. Patriots win 29-0. They were a 3-point favorite in this game. And you would think a team starting the third string quarterback, you think that team might be in some trouble, but not for Bill Belichick and his Patriots because Zappy out there with his first start, played a decent game. Didn't make too many mistakes, but obviously was taking advantage of just the mess of a defense that the Lions have. But it was mostly Ramondre Stevenson. He ran for 161 yards. They leaned heavily on the run game, and the obvious the odds makers were obviously not phased by whoever was starting for the Patriots because, like I said, they were the 3-point favorites. Um, and you expect the Lions defense to be bad, but even going back to last season with Jared Goff, they've shown that they're very capable of putting up points, but this game, they just weren't. I mean, they were pretty terrible. Goff was terrible, and yeah, it was just bad all the way around, both the offense and defense, and they couldn't really get anything going.
Yeah, like you said, this offense has shown that they've in previous weeks been able to put up points. I mean, like what happened here? Like week after week, we see the Detroit Lions putting up points. You know, we see this team maybe figuring things out. Third string quarterback, and they don't put up a single point. And as you mentioned, the books may have it already baked into the price, expecting Jones not to be playing, and you see that it was still only a -3. It
Yeah,
didn't move much to any after the announcement that Zappy would be playing. This is a team, you know, Patriots are a fairly public team. They may not be in the top of the public teams, but a team that's going to see money come in on them, going to see actions. Um, so the fact that that number didn't move leads me to believe that that price was already baked in, expecting Zappy to play. And even still, they go out and blow out the Lions by 26 points against the spread. That's insane.
yeah,
Like I was ex- I don't have this pulled up in front of me. So I like when I get these stats because it's my first reaction to the numbers, and I was expecting you to be like the 49ers because I know against the spread they still put a whooping on my Carolina Panthers, but the Patriots beat the Lions by 26 against
yeah,
the spread.
26.
That's insane. And I mean that's my reactions to it because I'm starting to worry about that. Detroit Lions over 6.5 wins on the season because yeah, first couple of weeks even catching a loss. It was a very competitive game. There's some things you'd like to have seen go differently, but for the most part, you were happy with the outcome. After this game with the Patriots, like do none of the Patriots players have kneecaps? Like, what happened here? Like, what didn't work? Yeah, because something went wrong.
Yeah, I'm definitely at a loss. Just not looking good for the Lions this season. But we'll move on to the bad beat of the week, which came in the Tennessee Titans at the Washington Commanders. This was a money line game. The Commanders were -105 on the money line. Um, for much of this game, it was a back and forth game. Um, between both teams. They leaned on their playmakers. Henry went for 28 carries for 102 yards and 2 touchdowns. Wentz, had a pretty good game. 38 times threw the ball 38 times, completed 25 of them for 2 touchdowns. But then had that one crucial pick. It really all came down to the last drive on an 87-yard. It was a long 87-yard drive, 4 minutes 40 seconds off the clock, and they were down. They had 13 seconds left on the clock, and Wentz did what he's best known for, and that's making terrible throws when in crucial moments. And that's exactly what happened here. And if you had the Washington Commanders on the money line, you thought, okay, they're going driving, they're gonna, win right here. You're feeling kind of good about it, but then there you go. You see Wentz do what Wentz does and screws up your bet. So that is the bad beat of the week.
Ron Rivera said it best. What was the problem? Quarterback. Quarterback.
Yep.
I mean, I I was not big on Wentz when the move was made to acquire him. I'm not sure what some of these NFL people see. I would like to hope that Ron Rivera wasn't the voice saying bring Carson Wentz in. I'm not sure, if we know anything behind that, but I did not expect good things out of Carson Wentz, and that seems to be the way things are playing out with the Washington team. And hopefully that's something we can bank on. Wentz was a player, a prop I've been hearing a lot more mention this football season. It's something that I noticed and I've been looking into in games. Quarterbacks to throw an interception. Most of these props, we're talking about only having to throw one interception. You get into potentially where the number is juiced and things like that. But in a league like the NFL, every year there are quarterbacks that are throwing double digit interceptions, 20 interceptions in a season. That's multiple interceptions in a game on average for the most part. You only need one. And for baseball bettors out there, past couple seasons, something you've heard a lot more of is things like nerfy bets where you have the no run first inning, and it's becoming a lot more commonplace to look into some of these smaller markets within games because of the possibility of finding a better angle on the prop. A lot of these books put up a lot of numbers, and the natural assumption would be they've spent time and effort into every last number that's up on the page. And the honest truth is that's not the case. Sometimes you can find stuff priced wrong. Sometimes you can find something that a book doesn't pay as much attention to as they should, and that's where you're able to get in at that better price. And you know, if this is something I'm looking at more regularly, I definitely think it's something other people should be looking at more regularly. I mean, that's what we're here to do, pass on the information and knowledge that we have. And if
Yeah.
there's a potential market to take advantage of, there's no reason not to check it out because depending on the quarterback in the game, if I'm not seeing it juice more than 125, 130 to the minus, there's a strong chance I might play that depending on, the way things are lining up because you just need one interception.
Yeah, man. Uh, we'll wrap up with my own personal picks, which I went 3-2. I had another winning week. Happy about that. Overall, I'm 12-13 on the year. Trying to get back to 500. But my best pick was the Miami Dolphins at the New York Jets. Final score was 17-40. And last week you were giving me a little gave me a little hesitancy on this pick last week. You were questioning it just a little bit there. Uh, yeah, and I was with you, man. I was taking a little bit of a game. I was taking a big gamble on this one. I went on a little bit of a limb with taking the Jets. Obviously, betting the Jets is, doesn't really pay off too many times. But I just thought, they were that juice that they got from that Steelers win would carry over to this game. Zach Wilson coming off his second, uh, uh, you know, uh, his second game off his injury. You definitely didn't have to do a whole lot. You just had to not make the stupid mistakes that he usually does. Um, not try to do too much. And he leaned on the run game with Brees Hall rushing for 97 yards and a touchdown. He also caught two balls for 100 yards. Um, so I mean, that's basically his best game of his young career. And obviously the Dolphins were already playing with their backup and Teddy Bridgewater, and unfortunately they lost him early in the game. But fortunately for me, they end up with Skylar Thompson playing the
I
rest of
mean,
that game.
let's be honest. Teddy Bridgewater going down like 2 snaps into the game couldn't have worked out better for, somebody riding with the Jets in this matchup. I mean, it's that simple. You don't wish injury on anybody. And honestly, of all the quarterbacks out there in the NFL right now, I mean, Teddy Bridgewater has what mirror did he break? What witch doctor did he piss off? Like, this man must have done some stuff in a past life that we don't want to know about, because it's probably some dark and gnarly stuff. Because no matter what he does, it doesn't work out. And injuries, and usually, like, not soft injuries, not weak injuries, you know, not to say that an injury is lesser, but his arm didn't fall apart. It's not a matter of not being able to perform. It's a matter of, you see that play? I just gave my body up on that play, and that's why I got hurt. That concussion, well, that's because I got hit. You know, it's just, from the betting aspect, it's like, wait, Teddy went down? Hey, you know, from the personal aspects, it's like, damn, Teddy went down. You bet on the Dolphins, right? Okay, okay, yeah.
Yeah, so like I said, it definitely worked out for me. Obviously, I wasn't expecting the quarterback to go down, but he did. So stuff happens, and I end up winning that bet. But on to my worst bet, which was the Houston Texans at the Jacksonville Jaguars. I had the Jaguars -7. They end up losing 13-6. I'm not really sure what happened here. I want to say it's the same old Jaguars. I really thought they were starting to move on from what they have been. They started playing some good football for the first 4 weeks, and then the Texans doing the opposite. They weren't very good. They looked terrible. Um, but you know what? I should have realized the head-to-head record in this matchup. I mean, last 8 times, the Texans have been dominating the Jaguars. And as a better who goes with the trends so much as I do, completely overlook that fact. And maybe that would have made me not stay away from this, um, from betting on the Jaguars on this one, because I do take those trends seriously. I do like betting with those. Um, but yeah, the rookie Damon Pierce just ran all over the Jags 26 times for 99 yards and scoring the only touchdown in the game. And Trevor Lawrence, obviously didn't have his best games, no touchdowns, through two picks, and he's just continuing to, not really take care of the ball. He did that in the Eagles and did that in this game. He's having trouble, not making those mistakes and being careless with the ball. So he's got to fix that going forward, and I think he will. But for this game, yeah, it's just a total whiff on my part in this game.
Yeah, I actually had the Jaguars mixed in with a teaser play, messing around with a few teasers. I think part of this game, when it comes to betting stuff, is you always have to keep your eyes open for potential angles. As I was saying earlier, it's about finding, not necessarily saying finding ways to win, but how can you increase the odds to the best possible manner in your favor? It may not be a literal change in the price, but it may be finding ways to win what some might just flat out call easy bets. In some cases, that may be what to some seem like a wild parlay because it didn't bring back much value. But when it hits and something like that, you can get to hit consistently. You know, it may not be something that appeals to everybody. It may not be a system per se, but it's something that works for you. It's something that works that allows you to find an angle that somehow seems to be hitting, and that's all that matters. Um, so yeah, I definitely think it caught a lot of people off guard, sports books included, that um, the Jaguars lost the way they did. 7-point favorite in this game. As you said, divisional games are they can always they can be unpredictable, and this is why, because you get two teams together that hate each other, and there's no telling what we might see.
Mm. All right. How did you do this previous week?
Um, this past week I went 3-1 on the spread plays. Bit off and on with the props that I played. I don't have my numbers up in front of me currently. The book I use, their page is going through something, so I don't have everything up in front of me. But I
No
do
problem.
recall Joe Mixon over his rushing prop. I believe the number was around 55, 59.5 may have been the number. But I believe he cleared that easy. He finished with around 70, 75 yards, I believe. Um, Couple other props and things that I was, looking at. I did have one or two interception props that I don't believe cash, but as you heard me saying earlier, uh, if it's something I'm looking at, if it's something Caleb's looking at, it's quite possible that we're hearing about it at other places as well, meaning it's potentially something to look into. Um, you know, 2, 3 seasons, you back in baseball, if you said a Nerf fee bet to somebody, they probably had no clue what you were talking about. It's an acronym. It sounds funny. You know, it's a real simple bet. It's a yes, no, runs in the first inning. Doesn't matter how simple or complicated it is if it wins. That's what people want. They want the winners. They want the bangers. So, you know, last in the Cincinnati Bengals Baltimore game, Baltimore's had a porous rushing defense. Joe Mixon came to town. The numbers at 59.5. I feel it's too low. Jumped all over it. It cashed barely into the third quarter, I believe, in a game where there wasn't a lot of scoring, where the ball wasn't just being moved up and down the field all day long. Uh, and you know, it's those types of things that you want to find. One teaser that I did have put together, you heard me make reference to my Carolina Panthers getting beat down by the 49ers. This was something I had the 49ers on the spread -6.5. I put together, one teaser where I was betting down the 49ers, so it was 49ers -1 and over 33.5, I believe, was the total on that same game teaser. Um, it ultimately cashed. A heartbreaking loss on a separate teaser I had. I created a little bit of a middle, same betting the spread down to a -1. I went the other way on the total, having under 42.5, I believe, 43, somewhere in that range. Those that may have watched the Panther games or at least followed it late in the game, they're down by multiple scores in their own territory, 4th and 10. Of course, Matt Rule decides to go for it. They turn it over. Of course, the other team punches it in the end zone because they're literally right there. Of course, they go over the total. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Sometimes that's the way things play out, but that's where I think you'll definitely, the folks watching this, you'll hear me mention it. You'll hear Caleb mention it. Losing on the hook or a bad beat is usually a sign that your handicap on the game was fairly, locked on. If
Yep.
if you if it hits that just dead center, I mean, that's really what you want to be. So even a close loss, yes, it's a loss, but it's not something that you should be down on. So, you know, yes, you finding a middle is not the easiest task to pull off, but to find yourself in an instance where I just need, go over this point amount, stay under this point amount, and it almost occurred exactly how I expected it. I was predicting that this game, the score total, it would be somewhere in the range of, you know, on Wednesday on the LBHT show, I made a score prediction, I believe, but I was expecting a 30 point to 10, 20-point blowout type game. Clearly going over a number that would be in the 30s. I think the books had this priced a little bit lower as far as team totals. Uh, so, it was just me personally. I felt it was a great way to find some value on this team. And even though it didn't come in ultimately, I was still happy with the way things worked out. Last week, I was on the Cincinnati Bengals. I was able to get +4, giving up a little bit more juice, but +3 was, still getting juice anyway. And if I'm only getting 1 unit back, that little bit of juice might be a big difference in a game where or that half a point or full point may be a big difference in a game where you expect it to come down to potentially a field goal. And that's what I expected in this game. A close scoring game, 2017, somewhere in that range, 24-21, potentially decided by a field goal, literally came down to a field goal. And you don't get any more clutch than mid game, your kicker just, and then, oh, you need me to win it, coach? All right, let me just stroll out here. I think I can whip the leg out one more time and just right down the middle. I mean,
Yeah.
and something I thought that was hilarious that was mentioned during the game and after the game, and Justin Tucker, he had a little fun with it. In a pregame, he missed like 6 in a row, and unheard of for somebody, a kicker of Tucker's level. People
Mm,
that get to games early. You see the kickers warm up. Sometimes they might miss a couple, but for the most part, they're dead on. He missed 6 in a row, and then nails the game winner. Even Justin Tucker said it. He's glad that they don't track missed pregame field goals.
yeah. Oh, that's what happens when you have the best kicker in history. But we'll get to this week's picks. But before we do that, if you we like helping you guys, not just with our opinions or and our betting picks. We like to give you a little knowledge at the end of these shows. So if you guys can help us out by pressing that like button, subscribing to the channel if you have not already, and if you want to really support us, you can join our Patreon, and you can just by clicking the link down below in the description. Um, yeah, so we will get into week 6, my bad, week 6 picks, and I will start off with um the I'll go with the Jaguars again, man. uh the Indianapolis Colts, they're at the Indianapolis Colts. They're getting +2. Roll the dice one more time. I've been picking them a lot the last couple of weeks. Hasn't really turned out well for me. But willing to look past it just this one more time. Uh, I still think Lawrence is going to play well. He just needs to take care of that ball, like I was saying. In the last matchup, the Jaguars shut out the Colts. And even though the Colts beat the Broncos on an awful Thursday night game, both offenses look really damn bad. Matt Ryan threw 2 picks at 15 incompletions. I think the Jaguars good enough to give the Colts problems, just like they did in the first matchup. The Jags are 6-0 against the spread in the last 6 games against the Colts, and the Colts are just 2-5 against the spread in the last 7 games. So I think this definitely favors the Jaguars in this one. Again, it's a divisional matchup, and we've seen what happens in those, and they're pretty close games. So, in those type of close games, I'll take the points where I can get them.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. And since I can't get my stuff pulled up, I'm just gonna piggyback off your games a little bit. I definitely feel looking at given the spread the way you said it, I definitely can't back the Colts. I'm not sure if Taylor's going to be playing in this game or if he's even close to being healthy yet. That may come down to a game time decision. And being that, it's going to be at least Thursday when people see this, we don't have that benefit of knowing who will and won't be starting. So having to guess a little bit, it that uncertainty leads me to be less inclined to back the Colts in a game like this. Um, if Taylor was closer to being game ready, that's the type of the announcement that's made early in the week, Monday, Tuesday. You get it out there in the news cycle. So at minimum, the other team starts game planning for it, even if you don't expect to use this player as in a full workload. So the fact that we haven't heard anything about Taylor playing this week or starting, I should say, leads me to believe that we could see him miss another game. Matt Ryan has proven, it's the same decline that people saw in Atlanta. This is a quarterback that I saw twice a year that, yes, you could rely, well, I won't say rely on, but struggled with turning the ball over. And that was really probably his most negative quality in his time in Atlanta, that ball security. Um, when he doesn't turn the ball over, we've seen, he's a quarterback that can move the ball down the field. He may not have the arm that he once did, but as far as a quarterback IQ, knowing where to put the ball or at least trying to, we've seen that. But at the same time, he's shown that you can't rely on him in the same way that you might rely on a Patrick Mahomes or a Tom Brady from the mindset of their decision making. Not to say that he's the same talent or caliber, but from the decision making outlook, Matt Ryan has made people question that at times. Being able to get the Jags at a little bit of a lesser price than what it would be if they had won last week or even finished with a loss in a closer game. I think Dougie P and Terrence Lawrence, they turn it around this week.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So you don't have your picks?
Yeah, no, not sure what's going on with them. I can't at the moment get it won't load. But yeah, I'll just
All right, no problem.
like I said, yeah, whatever games you have picked, that spread and whatnot, I'll give my outlook and
All right,
possible handicap on
all right,
those matchups.
no problem. Okay, we'll get to my second pick, which is Cincinnati Bengals -1 at the New Orleans Saints. My picks this week are going to be majority away teams. Like I said, I like going with the trends. The trends are in favor of the away teams, so I'm going to lean heavily on that. Um, Obviously, they have the advantage of the home teams, at least in last week, and I think they'll been again this week. Joe Burrow, put his team in position to win last week against the Ravens. Just left, there's just too much time on the clock for, like the best kicker in history, like we're talking about. Go down there and kick the winning field goal. But,
Hold up. When
despite
it
the
comes
loss,
to Justin Tucker, it's not about time on the clock. You just got to get to midfield. Like, let's be
exactly.
real about it. It don't. We left them 7 seconds. Well, they threw the ball once and got to midfield. What happened? They have Justin Tucker. Like, I'm so. I hope somebody out there has made shirts that reads like Justin effing Tucker because there are so many people out there that have probably bet against the Ravens and lost because of a man like that. So yeah, you know, as you said, the Bengals last week, that was a game I thought that they could have potentially won outright. To lose by two, last second field goal. You'd have liked to see more points out of the Bengals offense. Um, I definitely think they're taking on a lesser defense in the Saints than what they're going to see out of a team like the Ravens. So yeah, small skinny spread like that. And I'm gonna let you finish up, but
Yeah,
I
no problem.
definitely think that the Bengals go into this game and definitely put up some points and can cover that number.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. It's going to bring up the defense as well. They just gave up 32 points to Geno Smith and the Seahawks offense. He threw 3 touchdowns against them.
I mean,
I think
tell me that ain't wild. I mean, I don't mean to cut you off, but Geno Smith and the Seahawks have not been scoring on anybody, and
mhm,
they put up 32 points against
yeah,
the Saints. Like that's
yeah,
just that's wild.
yeah. So does give me a little more hope for my bet. Obviously, Taysom Hill had a lot to do with the Saints winning last week, because Dalton Winston ain't doing much. Um, Hill has more touchdowns than both those guys. Um, and I think Gerald Burrow, despite losing, is still playing a lot better than he was in the first two 0-2 start of the season. Um, and I think he'll put up a lot of points against the Saints, and the Saints allowed 20 points in every game this season. And the Bengals 11-2 against the spread in the last 13 games, and Saints are just 2-6 straight up in the last eight. So with a -1 like that, the straight up does is definitely going to be a factor in that, and it does not favor the Saints. So I'll go with the Bengals.
Yes, and
We'll
something
get.
that just crossed my mind as you were saying that.
Mhm.
The Saints lost to my Carolina Panthers, and the Saints let the Seahawks put up 32 points. If there ain't more, that's all the evidence you need to fade this team, in my opinion. You got a team with the offensive power that the Bengals have on a short spread, like we're seeing. Take the Bengals. Just take the Bengals.
Yeah. All right, I'll go. My last pick is the Baltimore Ravens at the New York Giants. Giants are getting 5.5, and you know what? I will take the New York Giants plus 5.5. The Ravens always seem to find themselves in these close games, even going back to last year. They were always in tight games. And with the spread with 5.5, that seemed to give the edge to the Giants in this case. Um, Lamar Jackson hasn't really been playing that well in the last two games. He's struggled with his accuracy. I think that will continue this week as it goes against a Giants passing defense that is surprisingly eighth ranked in the league. So that'll be a tough matchup there. And on the other side, the Ravens have the 32nd passing defense. So even though Daniel Jones ain't the greatest quarterback, I mean, he's going to have I think he'll have a little easier time with this Ravens passing defense. Um, and Saquon Barkley also is the big reason why the Giants are 4-1. He's leading this Giants offense to the number 2 rushing team in the league, and I think it'll once again come down to a Justin Tucker field goal to win the game. But in this case, it will not be enough because obviously the Giants are getting that 5.5, and they will not be able to cover that spread. And the Giants are 4-1 against the spread in the last 5 games of the season, and while the Ravens are just 2-1 against the spread this season.
Yes, this was a game that I was looking at. As you mentioned, the Giants have been one of the best ATS teams this season so far. Um, Something that I was looking at, you mentioned their how well they've been doing as a pass defense, and it got me to thinking, who have they played? Uh, what passers have they gone up against? And so far this season, they've gone up against Tannehill, Baker Mayfield, Cooper Rush, Josh Fields, Aaron Rodgers, and Joe Flacco. Now, Joe Flacco, he did light them up, but looking at not being able to go into every single game, I'm willing to suspect that none of these quarterbacks had a particularly well day, and I think that may have more to do with the quality of quarterback.
Yeah,
And no, that's not a knock against Cooper Rush, Cowboys fans, Caleb included. That's just in that instance, that's a player playing within his means. An instance where we're saying, he's not making mistakes. They're asking him to be a game manager, and that's what he's doing. Uh, so again, the Giants, they've won their games. This ain't a knock against that, but it's quite possible that we see Lamar Jackson go out there, and not to say that he's going to light them up and drop, 350, 400 yards on them, but I could see the Ravens winning by a touchdown in this game. Uh, that number being at 5.5, depending on where you're looking, does make it a little bit tricky. As you said, we got one, the Giants are 4-1 against the spread. It's hard to argue with trends like that. So we're gonna have to see how things turn out this Sunday.
Yeah, for sure. Hopefully it turns out the way I want him to. But we'll get to my next pick, Buffalo Bills at the Kansas City Chiefs, and I'll take the Chiefs +3. Um, before the beatdown of the mess that is the Pittsburgh Steelers, the Bills had some struggles with two, good teams that they played. They had close battles with the Dolphins and the Ravens. And then this week they'll play another good team, and it'll probably be a close game like they've been having. And the Bills have trouble winning close games going back to last year. They kind of struggled in those close games. They usually, if they're going to win, like I said, they usually blow the team out. And Chiefs coming off that number 1 point victory against the Raiders. They started off slow. They had to make a big comeback. Patrick Mahomes, those 4 touchdowns, all of them going to Travis Kelsey. But so these are two high-powered offenses, obviously, with two great quarterbacks going at it. And I think it'd be a tough, close game, and that is not something the Bills have shown that they can win consistently. That's why I think the Kansas City will pull it out. And I'm going to go with the home team, and the home team is getting points. So I like both those factors in this case.
Yeah, this is definitely an instance where if this was a neutral site, this game would likely be a pick 'em. Home team getting 3 points. That's what we're seeing going on here, in my opinion, because there's no way in hell that this game would be priced as, Kansas City -6. Um, I do think, yeah, with the matchup between these two offenses, looking over it, me personally, I might avoid playing the spread in this game, but an area I would look to target would be the game total, because the over, regardless of where they put this number, they might not be able to price it high enough. And it's just that simple. Um, with these two offenses, it's quite possible we could see both these offenses clear 35 points. I mean, it's not out of the question. Even with you know, me and Caleb were not big on Kansas City, and they've come out and proven, there may have been some drop off, but
But we had
they
right
are,
soon. We had a right soon because they weren't winning against
yes,
spread. They had
yeah,
awful
yes,
record against the spread.
yes, and agreed. But again, they've done what they've had to basically prove those doubts wrong. There may have been, there's a drop off level in talent, but they're still going out there producing, winning the games that they're supposed to, winning, whether it be winning ugly or having to, be able to put up points, get to the end zone. So I definitely think in a game like this, the over is a market that in the game total that can be targeted. Um, some of the game props that you can look at, uh, I'm not sure where it would how it'd be priced, but I'm sure you could probably find a prop for both these teams to go over 35 points, maybe 40, depending on where the book decides to put that number. Uh, that's something to potentially look at, because I definitely think you might find plus money to the yes, even with these um, two teams. So if you think that we see a bit of a college score when it's all said and done, that I mean, with these offenses, I think it's clearly possible, because regardless of the defenses that have stepped up against them, we've seen both these teams go out and put up points and have the roster to score in a variety of ways.
All right, we'll get to my final pick, and that will be my Dallas Cowboys at the Philadelphia Eagles. My Cowboys getting +6 points. Now I've been reluctant to bet my Cowboys with Cooper Rush starting. Though he's won every single game he started. I still have hesitancy on what we're getting from the offense every week, but the scheme has been consistent. Um, and the Cowboys implemented this offense where it's a very balanced offense, a run, pass, and running when we need to, and sticking with the run game with Zeke and Pollard and leading the way. And we're undefeated when we run the ball 30 times, and that's the formula that wins. If we
This
do that.
offense is so balanced. They balance the run game between the first and second string guy.
Well, that's not necessarily true because Zeke had a lot more carries than Pollard, but that's good. I mean, that's how it should work because Pollard, can't really pass block, and it's not really that great going in between right up the gut. That's Zeke can. Does get those big explosive runs that he got last week. So I just like the mixture that they got going, and it works, and it has worked, and and it wins. But the biggest reason why we are winning is because of our defense. Defense is playing outstanding. Michael Parsons just ridiculously good. He's gotten us to we're number 2 in sacks in the league, um, and Cowboys we'll do what we always do. We beat up on our division. That we're really we have a really good record again. We have a streak going on our division, like 8 straight games. Cooper Rush has his streak going, of 5-0 against their 5-0 record. Even if the Eagles do win, there's no way. There's no way with the way our defense is playing. There's no way they're beating us by no over 6 points. That's just not going to happen. And going back to last year, the Cowboys been great against the spread. Obviously, we're always undervalued, um, and that's why we've been beating the spread a lot. And we're 4-1 this year, so that's going to continue. So even if we lose, we're definitely covering the spread.
Well, I'm here to say the streak ends. I'm going with Philly on this one. I think that defensive line is going to be far too much for them to handle. I think even some of the sports books and markets out there have been surprised with some of the not necessarily production and the quantity across the entire line, but I know a player I was targeting coming into the season was Hassan Reddick. They had him priced at 9.5 sacks on the season. I was happy to jump all over that. This is somebody that's been double-digit sack performer in the past 2 places that he played, and already in this season, coming into this game, he's got 4.5 sacks on the season. He's had multiple games, I believe, where he's recorded multiple sacks. Um, him, Fletcher Cox, a couple just the D line unit that Philadelphia has, I think, will potentially raise a lot of issues for the Cowboys in this game. It could be, it could also lead to a possible reason as to why we see Zeke uh, garner more snaps than Tony Pollard in this game, even if we potentially see a better production, whether it be, people like to harp on a lot of the analytical stuff, oh, Pollard was averaging this many, yards per rush, and Zeke X amount. Well, as you said, if you need somebody to block in there, Zeke's going to be your guy. Um, so if a team's not trying to tip their hand, you might see Zeke get a couple extra snaps and design plays that weren't traditionally meant for him. So a market like unders on Tony Pollard, whether it be rushing yards or potentially receptions or something of that matter, you could potentially look to fade that, as well as targeting the potential upside on Zeke's receptions. I'm pretty sure that number is probably going to be about 1.5, 2.5. So you'd only need about 2, 3 receptions to clear in that instance. But as I said, I think this defense for the Eagles could raise some issues. And will Cooper Rush be put in that position where he's got to make a decision. He's got to make a play. So far, he hasn't faced too many scenarios where he had to go out there and make a play to beat somebody. And Sunday, I think that could definitely occur taking on the Eagles, and I'll be riding with the Eagles minus the points.
All right. That'll wrap up our bets for this week. Um, and we will get to our question portion of the show. But before we do that, if you would like your question answered on our show, you all you do is just leave a comment below, and we'll answer your question. But for now, my question is this Thursday. We have a game, Commanders and Bears, and the line is there is no line. There's no spread. This is a even money game, and I just wanted to ask you to explain what that even means. If they don't already know what that means, maybe you can elaborate on that.
Yeah, people will hear us reference terms like even money, plus money, juice. Well, essentially, we're making reference to the same thing. This number in correlation to basically, as my man said, even money. Well, in our world, if you're $100 better, you bet on something that's plus 100, you win $100. If you bet on something that's minus 110, you win $90. And to keep it simple, you bet 110 to win 100. That's, that basically zero, almost like a 0 point up until this point is where, you start seeing plus money. Um, Depending on how you might approach games or a matchup, that I mean, anytime one of us looks at a money line, that's really what we're looking at. How far away from zero is this number, and do I think it should be bigger or lower? In my opinion, that's anytime you hear a handicapper or a better reference, I thought the number was priced wrong. That's exactly what they're referencing. It should have either been higher or lower, either being further away from even money or lower, closer towards even money. And in some instances, with some books, you may find a number is plus money in one place and minus money in another location, and it's the exact same play. And in that instance, being again, it may not be what even money is, but you're looking for that plus number, and it all reverts back to this central point of even money plus 100. That's where you're trying to get on that plus side. Well, if it's at if a number's at minus 130, it's not likely to get anywhere close to even money, even if they're betting the other side. It might come down to minus 115, minus 110, but that's probably the lowest you're going to see it drop.
Yeah,
So
it's still even money, even though if it's like minus 105 or 110, because that extra $5 is just the odds makers charging you to make the
yes,
bet.
ultimately, that's exactly what that boils down to. Minus, in most bettors' eyes, yes, minus 110 would definitely be considered even money because when you play a spread, often you'll see there won't be an actual plus number. It'll be, minus 110, minus 105 on one side, and quite often the exact same on the other side. You might occasionally actually see plus 100 on some numbers. Um, so yes, plus 110, that's still even money. You know, plus 120, you're starting to get away from even money, but enough action on one side can easily bring that plus 120 back down to plus 100 or minus 105 because
And
some
if
of
you
these
Yeah,
go ahead.
if you don't know, they charge you that when they lose. Obviously, they expect an even amount of bets on both sides. Uh, 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 Either whether it's the Commanders, where they expect that's why I call it even money. They expect both sides to have even bets on both sides coming in, and that extra $5 and $10 or whatever. That's the money they charge you, so they can win. So they always win. Odds makers will always win if there's an even split on those bets, and they'll rake in whatever that extra $5-10 that they charged you.
Yeah, ultimately, when you start breaking down the numbers and you know more so getting into a an explanation, how the book makes money. But in a lot of ways, that's what it is. This play on both sides was minus 115. Half the people who played it, they paid minus 115. They lost. If you got the same number on the other side, well, you only had to pay out plus 100 to each person. You do the simple math. Clearly, there's some left over. Um, but yeah, so those small, you'll hear reference to somebody say maybe 5 cents, 10 cents on the dollar, or as Caleb just said, when you if you're $100 better, basically saying $5, $10 on the bet. Um, there it's still that even money. You're not getting much difference as far as the payout or as far as the extra juice you might have to pay. Um, so yeah, that slight difference is more important to the book making money as a business and less any real variance in lines as far as shopping lines looking for better value or a better price on a specific bet.
All right. Hopefully that helps everybody out. That is our show. So you can tell everybody where they can find you, DWeezy.
Yeah, y'all can reach me at Backyard Action Media here on YouTube. And I also do a weekly segment during the Lunch Break Hot Takes live stream on Wednesdays, which starts up at 7:15. And y'all can always catch me here with my man Caleb every week.
Yeah. You can find me at NFL Caleb 22 on Instagram and Twitter. You can find me on this channel, doing good friends, better rivals with Ferris Muthana, and talking Cowboys and Giants on Mondays. And you can find my articles that go along with this show on our website, Let's Get Ready Network. .com. So yeah, thank you all for watching. We're gonna get another winning week. We're gonna go for 3 straight, at least for me. And we're gonna make a lot of money. So let's all do that. Let's all get ready to make that money.